Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. I hope everyone's doing well out there. Today we're going to go over two topics for my WRX. The first one is power numbers. We got a virtual dynograph back from the tuner. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Again, it's a virtual dynograph, so take it with a grain of salt. It's just, a very, very rough estimate of what our power numbers are like. Some virtual dynagraphs can be actually very accurate. It just depends on the quality of the pull that you give the information to the software. So we'll take a look at that. And then the second topic is going to be LED lighting. We went ahead and modified the WRX some more. We took care of all the lighting, the halogen stock lighting, and we changed it over to LED. So I'm going to go over a lot of what I've done, show you how it looks in case you're interested, and then also go over the products that I bought to make that happen, so that way if you want to replicate it, you can. The only thing that obviously won't be answerable is longevity. I have no idea. To be honest with you, I went against the grain on that setup. I normally like to either switch out the actual housings themselves, like swap them. A lot of good options out there, but I'm actually, I like the way they look. It's not really too big of a deal for me, at least now. Things can change, but I wanted the lighting to be a little bit better. Stock halogen lights obviously have that like yellowish tint to it, and it's a classic look. Some people really enjoy it, and that's fine. I personally just wanted to modernize it a little bit, make it look a little bit more bright and more efficient. I think we accomplished that. So we'll go ahead and look at that together. And again, I went against the grain. I usually go with Diode Dynamics just because their products have just been spot on. Quality, fitment, and longevity, all really good. This time we decided to take a different route. My buddy's like, hey man, Amazon and eBay, they've been coming up a lot more with a lot better options. I've been happy with some of the purchases I made. You should do the same thing for your car for a video. So I decided why not, because not a lot of people want to spend too much money on LED lighting, and I believe there's some things you can't cheap out on, you know what I mean? Some things you can experiment with, that's obviously how you find good value out there. So that's what we decided to do. So again, I won't be able to speak on longevity yet, but I will make sure to keep it honest with you guys and post follow-ups if I ever have any problems with them, so that way and we can kind of benchmark it together. But we'll see. But I'll provide that to you too. I'll show you what products I'm using in this video near the end, and we can go over it together. But all right, let's go ahead and take a look at those power numbers first. Again, I went ahead. This is a tune from Fat Body, Ron Watson, if you guys are familiar. Really great tuner for the FA platform. He did a fantastic job. Instructions to him were, I want smooth power delivery and I want to keep it conservative. I'm not chasing numbers. I don't care what the numbers end up looking like. And lo and behold, this is what we got. And I think he did a great job accomplishing that for me. Everyone's going to be a little bit different when it comes to their driving habits. But I like the curves. I feel like they're accurately represented. That's just how it feels to me when I'm actually in the cabin. While I was doing these pulls, that's how I felt. My 93 tune, I will note that the numbers are probably going to be different in actuality because my temperatures were really hot that day. Like my 144 at the sensor, that was just really hot, and that's not normal for where I live. But all right, let's go ahead and get started. So 93 octane is my base octane that I normally use, and we're at 276 wheel horsepower at about 5,700 RPMs with 306 foot-pounds of torque at about 3,800, 3,900 RPMs. And again, that's at 144 degrees, so really hot. No problem there. E85, really good. I was expecting 350. We're at 372 wheel horsepower at 6,400 RPMs, and then 351 foot-pounds of torque at about 4,800 RPMs, and the temperature was a lot better that day. We're at 90 degrees, so not bad. Overall, I'm very happy with the numbers. They could have been higher, but I just didn't want to go that route. He even offered to see if we wanted to push it a little bit more. I told him, no, I'm not interested, don't care. I felt the car ran really good after all that he already had done, so why push it anymore if I'm happy with the product? Running a stock motor, stock internals, stock clutch, stock transmission, just a few bolt-ons here and there. Header is stock as well. Just everything else is switched out. So runs really well. 372, you can feel the difference when you put it on E85. I went with a Nostrum high pressure fuel pump, with a AEM 340 in the back. I described more of my setup in a previous video if you want to check it out, if you're curious on what exactly I'm running. But the reason why I did the Nostrum is I didn't want to blend, plain and simple. Had nothing to do with wanting to run a higher ethanol content to try to squeeze out as much power as possible. I don't care about the power number. I just wanted it to be a daily driver that's easy to operate, easy to maintain, things that you just don't have to think about. And one thing I definitely didn't want to think about is blending, especially I live in Michigan. It gets really cold in the winters and usually, you know, decent heat in the summers, but never too hot. But so far it's been actually last few days really hot and humid. So whatever, that's just not normal, but that's okay. But yeah, that's what I wanted. I just wanted easy go, smoothness. I just wanted smooth, and we accomplished that. It was really good. Mechanical issues, everyone will run into them, right? Or at least it does happen. You should expect it if you're doing any modifications. I did have one mechanical issue. I'll be transparent with you guys. I only had one so far, and it was after the tuning was already done. My setup, it gets a lot of hate because I've noticed that I try to research as much as I can in the forums, and I use past experience and builds to kind of sway my decisions on what I want to do with my current builds. And for the WRX, I wanted to vent to atmosphere. I wanted a blow-off valve. Now, it is a mass airflow censored car, so that's not usually what you do, but you can run it with a proper setup and proper tune. You know, it's still not the best for it. You know, disclaimer, running recirculated is just going to be the healthiest and the best for the car, but running a proper BOV setup isn't going to be detrimental to where you're going to blow up your car. And that's where it gets tricky, because I always say, like, try to research as much as you can on your own first before you ask questions online, because online people, you get some nice guys, I try to help too, but you get some people that just not in a good mood or just looking to pick a fight. And that's exactly what I found with researching like BOV setups for the WRX Subaru community. Everyone's just, you know, what's a good, you know, brand of BOVs? A lot has changed. A lot of design has improved. I want to know, what products are people looking at? When I looked at that and, you know, cross-reference the WRX, the only thing you see is that person asking a question, and all the answers are, you're dumb, don't do it, that's stupid, you're going to blow up your car. But no, I know that they're trying to help in a sense of, you know, they don't want people to run something that isn't designed for the car, but it can be done. It's a modification. That's why we're in this game together, right? To find setups that we enjoy and figure out how to make them work. But I literally couldn't find anything, so I just went back to my roots, and I was like, well, you know, HKS used to be really good. I talked to my buddy that used to run a Super Sequential 4. He enjoyed it, had a good experience, so I went ahead and bought one. And then I learned that, like, Tile, they make really good, the Tile Q, they're really good, mechanically sound. So if I continue to run into any issues, I will probably switch over to that, and it won't be hard to convert my current setup to that. So it's just a thought in the back of my head, but I'm hoping I don't have to do it. Again, I've only had one issue, and that was with my HKS blow-off valve. It's a Super Sequential 4, and what happened is the valve got stuck open, so it induced a leak, a huge leak. And it only lasted a few seconds. Feeling-wise, this was mid-driving, I didn't feel anything different. But I could hear something, sounded like more turbo, like a different frequency than the turbo. So I knew it wasn't the turbo, but it was something that was kind of replicating that whoosh noise. So then I peeked at the access port, and that's when I saw that I had my AF Learning pinned at -40, which that's a dead giveaway, you know. And the funny thing is, though, is I couldn't feel any difference driving, but as I was getting ready to pull over and to diagnose, shut the car off, it fixed itself. It went back to, now everyone hovers at different numbers, and there are different acceptable values depending on what your car is set up for. Fueling's a huge thing. Are you on E85? Are you on 93? Are you on 91? What's your elevation, temperature, things like that. So take everything with a grain of salt, but always consult with, if you're tuned, consult with your tuner and just ask questions, gather information, try to make knowledgeable, educated guesses towards if you're going to ask a question. And for me, I hover at -8, -10 normally. I run rich. My car's set up to run rich. It helps compensate for my blow-off valve, but more importantly, it's better for the fueling setup that I have and the fueling that I'm running. The E85 is the primary, even though my 93 is the base. So yeah, everyone's is different. My valve got stuck open. Luckily, it shut itself after within a few seconds. It self-corrected, but I still, when I got home, I diagnosed it, took it off, took the front bumper off to get access, tore that down. The HKS is, the super sequential setup is a little bit different than your traditional setup. Traditionally, a blow-off valve will have a spring and it's a push open that allows it to trigger, while the Super Sequential 4 is based off of vacuum. It has a spring in there, but it doesn't rely on that to open and close. It aids it, but the primary is a pull type setup, and it pulls open based on vacuum. And that's how the HKS Super Sequential 4 works. So it's mainly like a universal, like they advertise it as this blow-off valve can run any amount of boost without having to switch springs or do anything like that. It's just kind of like a one and done setup. And that's what I went with, and other than this one issue, it's been great, so I'm not going to say that it's shit yet, but if it happens more times, then I will consider switching it out, and I will let you guys know how I feel about it then. But for now, I'm okay with it because stuff happens. You know, it could have got a little bit dirty, so I went ahead and I just soapy water, cleaned it out, and then I put some light lubricant around all the seals and the valve to where it opens and closes to make sure that it was smooth, you know, as less friction as possible, and so far it's been so good. So no issues there, but I just wanted to let you guys know that because you hear a lot about people's setups and they don't really talk about the issues. Even if it happens, they won't mention it, and you're thinking that they have this perfect setup. Expect any modifications, especially when you do a bunch at one time, expect something to happen, especially like a front mount. You do that, you tighten every coupler up when you first get it installed, and lo and behold, after a few driving cycles or putting on a lot of miles, engine vibration, it's going to loosen it up a little bit, retighten it down, and then you should be good, and then you can monitor it. So nothing is perfect, not all the time at least. Sometimes you get lucky, but for the most part, expect something to happen. The biggest advice I can give you is keep a cool head about it, and don't drive the car hard until you diagnose what's going on, or if you're, you know, sound enough to know what the issue is right away, and you know that it's not detrimental to the car. For example, mine was, you know, super rich fueling, like super pig rich, which isn't good, but you know, it wasn't going to blow up the car. And with my driving habits too, it wasn't an issue either. Again, it self-corrected itself in seconds, but I still took it home, took it apart to diagnose to make sure I was correct on what the problem was. Why I bring that up? Because I see too many people blowing up motors when something happens and they get tempted by, let's say some asshole pulls up next to you and whatever car they have, let's just say it's a Mopar car. We have a lot of, you know, was it Challengers, Chargers here in Detroit. And a lot of them pull up to me and want to race. Let's say you have a mechanical issue, or you're just tuning in the tuning process, but you're not done. And they pull up next to you and they want to race you. Like, you know, I remember being young and getting excited, but, you know, I've learned a lot from there, and you should too. Like, you can always, there's always going to be some type of situation where you can spirited drive later. It doesn't have to be right then and there. It's not worth the risk. Don't blow up your shit. Who cares? You know, who cares what they think? Just take care of your business, and then you'll be right back into the game later doing whatever it is that you're doing. And hopefully you're not street racing. Hopefully, you know, you're keeping it safe for other people around you as well as yourself. But, you know, I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do. Just be safe about it. Don't be stupid. A few $100s worth of modifications to a few thousands of dollars worth of modifications aren't worth the price of the headache of rebuilding and tossing in a new motor and going through that whole process over again. You know, don't throw away your money like that. But all right, enough about that and the power numbers. I'm happy with it. The tune came out great. So Fat Body Tuning, Ron Watson, if you're interested, definitely check him out. His prices get a little high, so just if they're too high for you, see if he's going to have a sale. He always runs sales, but you pay to play, and he's a staple in the game, and I think that's why he compensates in my personal opinion, it's not what he told me. I think he can set a higher price because he's just a well-known tuner that does a really good job, but that'll also offset his volume. So for me, my experience customer service-wise was also very good, where opposed to some people, maybe their tuner is like super, super busy, so they can't spend every waking moment talking to you. And you shouldn't expect that, but you know, there's so many people that are into cars that you never know what you're going to get. As far as, you know, could get someone that's more of a Karen out there and really needs their hand held, and that's fine. That's not for me to talk shit about, but you know, they're not able to do it, and it's because work volume. So be patient with your tuner, guys, and hopefully you get good results. I'm happy with mine. But let's go ahead and let's take a look now at the lighting for the car. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at it. I'll kind of tell you and visually show you what we have done, and then I will show you the product that I used and any tips while we're taking a look at it on how I went about installing it. I will relay to you so that way you have some options, because especially for the front of the car, there's multiple different ways to attack it, and it just depends on which way you feel is easier for you. There's no wrong way. But all right, let's go take a look at that. All right, so it's dark enough now to where I can actually show you the LED lights. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that I do have the Diode Dynamics Smart Tap relay installed, and that's because we switched out the turn signals to LED. If you do the turn signals to LED, if you don't get a new relay, a flasher relay, it will do the hyper blink. So made sure to get those so that doesn't happen. And if you get the Smart Tap from Diode Dynamics, it adds like these little features like these courtesy lights. But as you can see, the front turn signals are super duper bright now. And then do that again. Turn signals in the rear are also super duper bright. So much brighter than factory. Go ahead and show you some lighting. There we go. So these are the LEDs that came from the factory for the interior, but these are the ones that we added. So here's the Vanity Lighting. As you can see, it's like super duper bright for both. Really good. There's no puddle lights on the doors. And let's show you the more important things. Alright, so another thing that we did too was, while I had the bumper off, I was already doing some work on the car, so I ended up taking out the DRL resistor. So it's basically, if you unplug that, it looks like it's a black connection, two plugs, two brown plugs on each side, and in the middle is a black body, and you can separate it. And what that does is it turns off your daytime running lights. If you disconnect it, it's a resistor. And I did that because since we swapped out the high beams and low beams with LEDs, I didn't want to keep the high beams on as a DRL, so that's why I disconnected it. It's really easy to do, and it's located at the front passenger side of the 2021 WRX. Easily accessible and visible if you take off the front bumper. And for anyone that's like a computer person, it's connected to something that looks like a heat sink. But all right, let's go ahead and turn the headlight switch 1, and that'll do the side markers. Let's go take a look. And they're decently bright. I would actually run these as my DRLs, so if I was driving around and needed them for some reason, maybe light rain, then I would just use those. So as you can see, they're nice and bright. For the sea lights, it does a really good job up until right here where my hand is. As you can see, it doesn't really fill in the rest, but that's okay. It just has a cleaner look to it now and much brighter. I think it looks pretty good. And then you can see the side markers here. With the regular halogens in place, it gives more of that yellowish orange look. So some people prefer that. Since I was already in there, I decided just to replace it with the LED anyways, and it's fine for me. I don't, you know, it's nice and bright, so not a big deal. I think it looks fine. And then here are the rears. The side markers are here, and it's a little bit brighter. With the stock halogen, it gives more of a true color. But again, I just got bright white replacements. So if I actually color matched them and went like amber in the front for the side markers, it would definitely, I think, look a little bit more appropriate. And same thing with the back. If I got red ones, it would probably color match it a little bit better. But I'm not too picky when it comes to that. I think it looks really good. And then as you can see, here is the license plate light, and it is really bright. The reverse lights are like 10 times as bright. I think that you can get some tint overlays. I'm probably gonna have to do that because it's just so dang bright. But I guess that's good though if you're like reversing out of a parking spot at night. Help for someone to be able to definitely see you and have no excuse if they like hit you or something. It shouldn't happen. Okay, so let's go with, that's the low beam. And here's a high beam. So way brighter than the stock halogens. And in my opinion, they just look a little better. So that's how it looks. Really good lighting. And then let me turn the high beams on again. Not like you guys want to stare at like just a super bright ass light. But there you go. And I put the turn signal on so you can see it. But just way brighter than from the factory, and that's a given, but they do a really good job. I was not expecting them to be as good as they are from a product on Amazon that was significantly cheaper. And then let's go ahead and throw it in reverse while we're parked, and you'll be able to see the reverse light. As you can see, it's like someone having two flashlights just pointing backwards. It's super, super bright. I mean, it illuminates the rest of the street. So that's pretty insane to me. So some overlays would probably be a good idea. Pop that back in place, back in gear. And then let's do final light, which is the trunk. And nice and bright. It's just right up there. So in my opinion, so far at least, just initial reaction is money well spent. You know, did all that. I think the total cost for switching out all that lighting was right around 170. I think prices will vary depending on when you buy it. Sometimes you have really good deals on Amazon, like flash deals and stuff. Oh yeah, so it's nighttime now, so that's kind of a bummer, but oh yeah, you're not even going to be able to see it in the camera. And oh, actually I have my cell phone though. Hold on. Let's see if this helps. Okay, cool. So we have light. So obviously you're going to want to do this in the daytime, but if you end up doing that flasher relay for the turn signals, so you don't want hyper blink, you'll have to remove this panel right here. Sorry, I got two hands. There we go. So you want to remove right here, this side panel, and then it'll expose Phillips. You remove that screw, and then you're able to completely pull this portion out, and it'll be located right here. And the trick to that is it's got like this plastic mount that holds it in place along with the harness. And in order to get that separated, you have to attack it from the back, or you just need to pry down with a trim removal tool. I opted to use the trim removal tool just because there was no way, like after I did that, that's when I realized that if you take a flathead from behind it, you can release that clip, but it's really cramped spacing there, so I don't know how you'd be able to do that, but that's how you do it. And here we go. Let's actually put the hazards on, and as you can see, it's got this like strobe effect now for the hazards, which you can switch it out. That's one cool thing about that smart tap that I was talking about, is it actually allows you to change the functionality of like some of those components. So you can have that strobing effect on. You can turn it off if you don't like and have it back to the standard way it does it. Or you can change the timing for the turn signals to make them flash faster or slower. It's kind of up to you. But I like the fact that it adds that courtesy lighting just because there's no puddle lights in the doors. So since we switched out to LEDs, it's just nice and bright and just helpful for passengers. But yeah, really cool. So let's go inside now and I'll show you the products that I bought for it to make this all happen. So that way, if you're interested in recreating this, you can use 100% of the stuff that I had purchased. And then before I forget to, for the rear end, for the tail lights, you just have to remove the rear liner. It's really easy to do. You don't even have to remove it fully. And it's just a few pop clips, super simple. But as far as the headlights, you can have the option to either pop your hood, and if you just remove your air intake, you'll have plenty of enough room. Or if you have someone that has really small hands, they might be able to do it without having to remove anything, but more than likely remove your air intake, and then on the driver's side, remove the battery. Or again, if you have someone that has small hands, they could probably fit in there, but it's really tough. So those are the two options. Or you can do the third option, which was I already had the bumper off, so I just removed the headlights because it was super simple to do. But if it's not easy for you to do, then just remove the air intake and the, hey Gavin, remove the air intake or the battery. So either one of those will do it. Hey buddy, going to the garage real quick. I'll be right back. And let's turn this light on. We have light. And then let me show you the products real quick, and then we'll be done for today. So, all right, for the headlights. And again, all this stuff, you can just buy it right off of Amazon. If you search any of these product names, you'll be able to find it. And even if you don't go with exactly what I got, it'll give you an idea of like a search parameter to find comparable items if this is something you're interested in. So for the front high beams and low beams, I bought a combo package, so it came with both sets. So two sets of LEDs for the, or not two sets, I'm sorry, two pieces for the low beams and two pieces for the high beams. This is made by a company called Farron, and the low beams size are H11 and the high beams are 9005, so 9005. Really good quality. The only advice I could give is buried inside the instructions, it'll tell you that you want to adjust the LEDs to where they're facing left to right and perfectly flat. So you want them to face 3 o'clock in the 9 o'clock position. To do that, it's really easy. It's got an adjustable ring on there that's just held in by an Allen key. So you use the included tool and then just have the power cable that's coming out of the back of the light. It just needs to face down in the Subaru. And if you do that, then it'll be perfectly level, and that'll give you the optimal light output and direction that you want it for visibility. So that does it. So it's pretty good. We'll see how long it lasts, but initial impression, I'm impressed. Quality's pretty good. Okay, so let's move on. So this is Vanity Lighting, and these are the LEDs that I used for the trunk, no, not the trunk, the license plate, for the license plate lighting. It's T10/194, so the 194 is the size. This came with 4, so I just added the additional two onto the BRZ that we have in the driveway. Works really good, super bright as you can see. Let's see, antline. So this is 4 pieces. These are the turn signals that I used. So 2 in the front and 2 in the back. And super bright, the quality was really good. Let's see, does it have a product number on here? No, it doesn't. So if you just search antline on Amazon, I'm sure you'll find it. It doesn't have the bulb size written on here, but here's the little barcode. Hopefully it's legible. The focus on this camera is a little wonky sometimes, so I apologize. All right, so let's see, moving on, we got 3 more. So here is another Out the Drl Lighting product. This is the size T15/921, so 921 in size. I use these for the reverse lights. So those super bright white reverse lights, this is what did it. Here's the barcode for it, or the label. But I'm sure if you search the size and the company name, you'll be able to find them. All right, let's see. These are the Vanity Lights, so the ones that were in the sun visors that you fold down and lift up next to the mirror. This is by a company called Everbright, and they're 28mm fuse style lights. So if you type in 28mm fuse LED, this should come up. And there were 4 pieces included. Works really good. I think I have a couple extra. Plug and play, they fit really well, easy to replace and swap out. And then the last that we have is by a company called Mars Auto. And these are, it doesn't say the size on the package, but these are 194s. So obviously some of these are interchangeable, so it just depends on what brand. I just went off of what had good ratings. Some of them said that they didn't fit Subaru, but if you know the location that you're trying to install, what you're trying to replace, it does fit. It's just some reviews, people think it's like a one-size-fits-all, and that's not the case. So you just got to know what you're replacing and kind of just take it from there. But these ones I used for the C lights and the side markers. So 4 in the front, because we had the 2 C lights in the front, 2 side markers in the front, 1 on each side, and then the side markers and the tail lights, which would be 1 on each side. So we used 6 of them, and I'm sure you could find different uses for these. Like I said, my LEDs in the cabin were already replaced from the factory. So if you don't have that, this will probably fit. It seems like a common LED light for the Subarus is the 194 is very popular, and then the Vanity Lights are the more specialty fuse lights. So anyways, I hope this helped you guys out. Grand total again was around 170 bucks. I know some companies will sell just a set of low beams for that cost. So that will save you definitely a bunch of money if you're planning on doing this and you're on a budget, or if you're just trying to experiment with value. That's what I did. Again, I would normally just get diode dynamics, but I decided to do this for a video because I've never really bought LEDs off of Amazon or eBay for my cars. And since a friend recommended that the quality is getting a little bit better, I figured why not test it out and see if that is the case. So as far as initial impression, again, super bright. Installations were pretty cut and dry. It's just a matter of getting to the bulbs and switching them out, which I don't think was too big of a pain. The headlights were a little bit of a pain just because of the fitment and like being able to either, if you're lucky enough to have a hand that's small enough to get in and out real easy, then it's probably a breeze. But for someone like me, it was easier for me to just take the bumper off and then remove the headlights, because then I had the freedom to work without having my hand cramp up and hit a bunch of stuff. But yeah, the light output is great. I think it looks really good. Modernizes both the front and the back. The reverse lights may be a little too bright, but nothing that a little bit of tint overlay wouldn't correct and make it look a little better anyways, so I'll probably do that. But yeah, hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.